locals. Volibear is probably the most explosive deck in the game with if you can go mobilize into Catalyst into Aurora, the game is probably over against most decks, right? As Volibear with the body and the Fury colors has the best top end in the game. That being said, Fury and Body don't really have the best consistency. You don't have like the stacked deck from MF. You don't have the Find Your Center from the green. So it's a little bit hard. You can't always find that Aurora, and you're gonna have to actually win these games without seeing the Aurora sometime.
Yeah, and that's going to be tougher than it sounds. But I like this tech option coming out from the Volibear player. Iron Ballista, kind of like a clean spell, doing 2 damage on a unit on a battlefield each and every turn for simply exhausting. It doesn't cost any power or energy. So we saw one get removed. So a Ballista on the Kaiser, follow that up from a Disintegrate, doing the remaining 3 damage and drawing 1. There's a lot of spells for a Volibear, I want to say.
Yeah, so I'm not going to spoil the list, but one of the nice things with the Fury color is that it does have a lot of removal. So when Volley does have all these free runes in the early game before the Aurora hits, well, I mean, if you don't have draw spells, you got damage spells, right? So in this case, opting to kind of control the board before the Aurora gets dropped and hopefully set themselves up to a position where they're not just losing the game before the Aurora kicks in.
Though, yeah, man.
I mean,
I was just going to say, speaking of setting things up, Terra developing his board state tremendously. And as an answer to kind of back that up a bit, the red Volibear champion has hit the board. 10 total energy has been expended for 9 might. But more importantly, it's a deflect too. Kaiser known for having efficient spells. I mean, nothing's taking this big bad bear down so easily. It's gonna cost you, if you do a falling star, you're gonna lose 4 total runes. So this is gonna be very, very tricky for Kaiser. I like this coming out so early from Volibear.
Yeah, this does give some information to Tracedon though. This tells you there's no Aurora in the volley hand, which is concerning. I think it is probably playable for volley if you have gotten to this point. Kaiser's only at 4 points. There's still a chance. What I would be a little bit afraid of, and seeing as we just did pay a power cost, is probably fine. But generally what I would be afraid of in this is the Kaiser going to 6 points, you getting passed over, and then time warp for game. But as I say that, there's the Aurora.
Yeah, there it is. The notorious Aurora, dazzling Aurora. Is this going to be enough though? Because Kaiser already managed to get her way all the way up to 5 points. But of course, the starting battlefield for this Volibear player is Aspirant Climb. So it has a little bit more breathing room to work with. Going for Iron Ballista directly onto Ravenbloom. We're seeing the power. You don't even have to go into that unit, or into that battlefield rather, to get that done. Now has the Volibear player onto Reaver's Row, and I like the ability. I believe it triggers before the Reaver's Row, or correct me if I'm wrong, and how would that chain interaction work? Does the deal damage go before, or does Reaver Row get to target as a response?
So what I believe how this works, and I always say believe because the rules are changing and I might have missed an update, but how this should work is that when you declare the attack, when the battle starts, you get the attacking triggers and then you get the defending triggers on the same chain. So the Reaver's Row is actually going to give him the option to retreat before the damage goes through. So that does seem to be why he has decided to, instead of pushing the Volibear up, chose to remove it with a Stormbringer instead.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, not the Stormbringer.
Sky Splitter. Yeah, I know what you meant. The Sky Splitter there. But man, it's a rare occurrence where you have both Volibear champions on the same board. The Volibear Furious and the Volibear Imposing on the same battlefield. And of course with the Volibear Legend, quite thematic. This guy is all in on his Volibear cards. Let's see if he can get things done, because there's no battlefield presence for this Volibear player that's allowing Terra to continue to terrorize and conquer these points. So pushes up the Sentry, that's going to be bringing up to 6 points most likely. We saw a couple spells. there's 2 runes available for Volibear players. Those 2 runes going to be enough for his Kaiser going to 7. In this situation with Aspirant's Climb, that's kind of the perfect even 2 remaining points you want to be at to get to that 9. So this is a really strong position for Terra. He's going full pedal to the metal.
Yeah, and he is set up next turn for a potential time warp as well. So it does get a little bit dicey here for the Volibear, as even if you do take both battlefields, you can just randomly lose to a time warp, right? If you are able to push up and conquer. But I don't think that's going to happen, as the both Volley should cleanly take, assuming he does push aggro. I believe he will, but you would have to expend some sort of resource to reclaim both the battlefields, as you are on 7, and Aspirant's Climb excuse me, Aspirant's Climb is in play, so you do have to end up conquering on both battlefields. You can't just conquer one and hold, right? Honestly, from this position, I think Volibear is like in a really good spot here, despite being so far behind in points. I don't think it matters.
Yeah, that's the interesting take on Dazzling Aurora decks. No matter how wide that point margin may be, as soon as that Dazzling comes online with a couple more big might units, like we're seeing both of these Volibear champions on the board, is sometimes all it takes to take control of the matchup, unless there's things like unchecked power. But bear in mind, you have to exhaust all your units to deploy that. And then things like a Cathian Rain we mentioned before, but the Catagrin, or I don't know exactly how to say his name, chat, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, comes down, you get +3 draws, 1 for himself and 1 for each of these Volibear players. So more answers available for this Volibear. This is, look, I'm kind of seeing what you're seeing, and I'm seeing it slowly but surely get the job done, and he's able to do efficient removal with that Incinerate plus the Iron Ballista. This Volibear, I'm seeing exactly why he is one of these 4-0 undefeated players. Very well done so far.
Yeah, now we're getting another Aurora hit, and this is going to draw even more cards. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, you think you're drawing a pure draw deck. That's +4 following the 3 cards he drew already. What is that? 7 total cards drawn in a single turn? That's unheard of, right?
Yeah, I mean, Catagrin, very powerful card, especially when it starts coming down after you've already established a few of these mighty units, like the Volibear Furious and the Volibear Imposing. As Kaisa, this is just such a hard spot. You not only now have to deal with the 2 Volibears, but there are now 2 dragons on the board as well. So it's just an incredible amount of damage. And because you do have to further commit to the board to actually even try and deal with either of these, you no longer have the option of trying to do something with like a Time Warp or even like a Rain. So, oh, that's kind of interesting. So for those unaware, a lot of Kaisas have been kind of dropping the smoke screens from the deck. It's more of a mirror focus change, as Smokescreen isn't super good into the mirror, but into these really big and tall decks, it's actually pretty strong, right?
You know, something to note, if there is a way to try to take down these battlefields, it might just be with a triple Darius combo. 3 Darius, you rarely ever see it. I believe I've only seen it one time before, so the Smokescreen, follow it up with a Falling Stars to do the remaining 6 damage. Now if you go into the other battlefield, your opponent isn't going to be drawing, so I can respect getting rid of that Volibear first. And it looks like they're talking about... No, yeah, it does hit the bin. It does go to the discard. Now he has enough to try to take down one of these battlefields, or I guess, what is that, 18 on Aspirant Climb. So sending the entire squad, 3 Darius,
wow.
Total 21 might, just to take down just 2 units from this Volibear.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of might, and that's a big trade for you, but you're at 7 points, and really all you need to do is hold once. Yeah. The game is yours. So, I mean, I see it. I see the vision. I don't hate it. I am a little... no, this makes sense, because if you do push into the Reaver's Row, then you do run the risk of the dragon just being retreated, right? And then shoved up again with more. It does mean that you have to trade 2 Darius instead of 1. But... You are just telling him to have the answer here,
Yeah.
which would be like a dead bloom is a good one. Is what's happening to this rune?
There we
Okay,
go.
there we go.
Yeah. I think it didn't auto click when you hit ready, so he's manually choosing or manually having to do the 2 runes for the channel phase. But to your point, and you asked, does he have the answers? I want to say he might just have those answers when we're looking at the abundance of cards he has in hand. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 with the sabotage. So triggering the sabotage now, getting rid of the Void Seeker from Terra's hand. But there has to be so many more answers. Or one of those answers a Dead Bloom Predator, just like you said. That's going to be the perfect card needed to take that Darius off the board and keep those battlefield controls under his control and just try to hold it down and not let this Kaiser player go for the final game point, force him to have to conquer 2 in 1 turn. And at this point, if he gets to that position, that's going to be a huge uphill climb for this Kaiser. So that's what he wants to do. That's what he has in mind if he has those cards available to him. Let's see if he has it though.
Yeah, there are a lot of combinations of cards here that work. Like, yep, this works as well. As I mentioned before, not spoiling any lists, but the Volibear deck does have a lot of damage spells to work with, being the Fury and the Fury color. So that 5 Might Darius looking like food for the Ballista plus the Disintegrate.
Yeah, nice little lunch for Volibear. But I think we've seen almost every Fury combat spell there is, right? We saw Disintegrate, we've seen a Falling Star even, we saw Void Seeker, we even saw the little Annie artwork Incinerate. I'm willing to bet, I mean, we even saw the Sky Splitter. I'm sure there's one of them in there, the little one with the monkey artwork. Maybe he's not running that one. But man, so much removal we're not used to seeing. We're just used to seeing some big mighted units from things like Volibear. But I like this because you're able to use your full runes to your max. So if you're not playing units directly and you're rather going to play units from Dazzling Aurora, might as well use your remaining runes for things like spells. So I can see where he's thinking. But he doesn't get to put anything onto the Aspirant Climb. This is kind of tricky.
Yeah, and we do know there's a Watcher in Terracodon's hand. Unfortunately, if you do want to accelerate the Watcher, it is going to cost pretty much everything that's left. And we do also know that, I mean, through basic math, that the Watcher is not going to be able to clear the Reaver's Row. It's not a good spot. I guess you can shove it up into the climb. And,
oh, he does run it. The get excited. So he's running every spell from Fury that does damage. So he ended up discarding, I didn't get to see, but it deals damage equal to the damage, discard 1, deal its energy cost. That's what it is. So he discarded enough to get over 7, and Terra saw enough. That was incredible. Terra got to 8 points while I believe Volibear was in the neighborhood of like 2 or 3, and he's still the one conceding. That is insane.
Yeah, that's kind of what you'd hope for as the volley deck. When you play your Aspirant's Climb, you're hoping to kind of scam the game away. And he did thankfully hit the Aurora for him. He missed it by 1 turn, but that's not too big of a deal. It might have even been a conscious choice, as I've played Aurora decks a fair bit. And sometimes you do decide, well, establishing a unit that I can actually punch up with a turn earlier might be a little bit better. A controlled unit rather than a random unit. So it might have even been a conscious choice. There might have been an Aurora in hand and choosing to just not play it for a turn. I mean, the removal looked really good there. Like, there's the Disintegrate and the Void Seeker, both for draw, as the volley deck does struggle a little bit with card draw to see cards. But I think the MVP for me is the Ballista. I think the Ballista got used like 4 or 5 times, and
yeah.
that was like, that's a lot of value.
Yeah, it was the Ballistas followed up by the Disintegrates that added that perfect break point. So you do 2 damage and the remaining 3 damage with the Disintegrate for things like 5 Might unit like the Darius, perhaps even those Kaisers that he take down. Not only do you take him down, but you're drawing 1 for that Disintegrate. So I love what Volibear brought to the table. And I like this because sometimes since you're playing units directly from Dazzling Aurora and Volibear wants to go late, so you use your spells to get rid of characters nice and early. You prevent them, similar how Gus is utilized in this game, where you prevent and slow down your opponent's tempo. You use your spells to slow down your opponents, neglect them any kind of hold points, and it gives you that breathing room in the long run. You're able to get to that end game where we're talking about a dazzling Aurora Volibear. That is where he wants to dominate, and that's where he wants to be. So I like this full combination. I see, NA, are we gonna have our first ever volley champion? I'm gonna knock on wood. I'm not gonna jinx anything, but he's looking strong.
I'm excited for sure. I love Volley. He is such a cool character, and that Volibear Furious alt art is absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah.
My first Riftbound cast was a Volibear match, so I'm really excited to hopefully see a Volibear win. That being said, Arena's greatest, very powerful for Kaisa here, and definitely has the opportunity to go under the Volley deck, so we will have to see.
Yeah, you're so right. If there's one opportunity to go under this Volibear before it even gets all set up, it will be with an Arena's Greatest. You do get an ideal turn 1 with that Pouty Poro. Going to be pushing the pace, going up to 2 already, since it did already trigger with Arena's Greatest. Going to be accelerating, so full gas, no brakes, going up to 3 points. Oh, yeah, she's going fast, which is exactly what you want to do against a Volibear player.
Yeah, the one downside of this is you do lose that guaranteed accelerate unit, and you do know the Volley is on Disintegrates, you know the Volley is on Void Seekers, you know the Volley is on the Ballista, so it's pretty much guaranteed that your Kaisa's gonna die. I think you're okay with that for tempo. I honestly don't know though, because like looking at it here, right, you got the extra point early, but now you just don't have units again, and that extra point could have come at like any point, right? Like you could wait a turn and then still have a rune up for like a retreat, or at least bluffing something like a retreat, instead of kind of shoving it up right away and just saying I'm tapped out, I have no answers. At least like make your opponent think a little bit. That being said, I mean it's probably fine. The Ballistic was going to out the Poro anyway, but I don't know. It just hurts to lose your Kaisa so early. But that being said, good for Volley, right?
Yeah, so far so good. With the get excited to get rid of Darius, discarding the Dragon, not too bad. Decides to play out the Buccaneer, does trigger the Mighty Trigger, channeling 1 extra for the turn, but the Iron Ballista seems to be doing the God's work for this Volley player. Clearly an MVP card for him, getting rid of things like Pouty Poro. You still gotta pay the deflect cost, but this is Kaisa inching her way toward that 8th final point. She's all the way at 6 already, so she's getting awfully dangerously close to closing things out, but we saw Volley was able to hold it down. He's at 10 runes right now. Is something like a dazzling. Wait a minute, so Sabotage, there's still enough runes for something like a DA, but let's see what's in the hand so far.
Yeah, that Sabotage is really important. If the Sabotage was not played, you open yourself up to just losing on the spot to a Time Warp, as it's pretty unlikely Volley is able to clear both battlefields here. It would require a Dead Bloom plus the Ballista, or a bunch of removal spells. And if you're playing a bunch of removal spells, you're not playing Aurora, which is pretty down bad. So very, very important Sabotage there. Does he have Aurora, though, is the question. I think a Dead Bloom would be fine as well. One of the two.
Yeah, I would imagine if he doesn't have an Aurora, he's going to be falling a little bit too far behind. Because without being able to deploy a big unit... Okay, here it is. He does have it. That's step 1. Step 2 would be something like a Dead Bloom Predator off the top, but Iron Ballista using it time and time again to not let these opponents get these points, but that's going to be a Stormbringer. Void Seeker, does he get a Dead Bloom Predator? To be fair, we haven't really seen it all series long, so I'm willing to bet he is running it, but we don't know for 100% fact, and he will be hitting the Volibear, the orange Volibear instead.
Yeah. So that's going to be game, because he does know that the Watcher is in hand, and it'll just get accelerated up into the Obelisk of Power. So, unfortunate one for there, but that is the struggle of playing the Aurora decks, is sometimes you're just not going to hit the right card.
And we're seeing in chat, I mean, it's either you gotta pick your side. You either love or hate Aurora decks, or you love and hate Kaiser decks. They're kind of the big boogeymans of the meta right now. But keep in mind, guys, it's just most likely like set one problems, right? A lot of TCGs, when it's just set one, there's not too many cards to choose from. Granted, a 300 card set is pretty big, but still is only one set. You're not going to get the most amount of diversity, but this is a cookie cutter ideal start for Volibear. Mobilize turn 1, getting 1 extra rune, so going to 5 runes. If he gets a Catalyst of Aeons, that could very well be a turn 3 Dazzling Aurora. Does he have it? Okay, it's a Ballista.
There's the Ballista.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I mean, we've seen the Ballista every game, so probably going to assume that that is a important piece, maybe at 2 or 3. Kai'Sa looks like going right into the Kai'Sa, though. We've seen it. I don't think it's stuck around for more than a turn, but you know what? Being able to take your pick of 2 cards and then potentially a random third, pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the sequencing. You're triggering the Candlelit first and then deciding to draw. So do you want to recycle? It looks like he wants to send both of those cards. Never mind, leaving 1. He likes what he saw, leaving 1 at the top so that Kai'Sa able to pick it up immediately with the survivor ability. Passes it over, so does do the Ballista, the 1-2 combo we've seen so much in this best of 3 series, doing God's work. And I like this. Volibear sometimes, if you're not hitting those dragons end game, gets a little short on cards. I like these disintegrates coming out to keep that hand size nice and healthy. Darius, it looks like he's not prioritizing developing the board. He's just trying to conquer ASAP, trying to accelerate units as soon as they come onto the board, superfying his own unit just simply to keep the conquering going. And he's going to send it into Candlelit, but the counter play, the get excited, so many spells from this volley player.
Yeah, and Stormbringer discarded, so that's the first time we've seen that card. For anybody unaware, that is the volley signature spell. Pretty powerful. Definitely works better when you have all these giant units. And wow, okay, we got a whole, what do you even call like a group of crossbows?
Right. I mean, a fleet of iron ballistas, it looks like, doing 2 damage. So basically a Void Seeker every turn for free. Nothing to scoff at. Such a powerful amount of pressure being put on from Volibear. And to make matters worse, you got your red champion hitting the board now. And Guys is only at 1 point. There's not that big point discrepancy that we saw in game 1. This is pretty much virtually even. This is where Volley wants to be. If he hits something like a Dazzling Aurora this very next turn with the potential of Kai'Sa only going up to 3 total points, you're loving that position and looking quite likely you're going to hold on to that undefeated streak.
Yeah, this is really bad for Kai'Sa. And it's really unfortunate too, because traditionally these Kai'Sa lists play anywhere from like 7 to 9 2-drops, and totally whiffing until now is just kind of crazy on that. So you end up falling so far behind in the tempo, right? Because the volley is just playing all these ramp cards, these cards that give value over multiple turns like the Ballista, and here you are just trying to find points. And you need to find them before that Aurora hits. That being said, it is post side, so there can be like the thermo beams, there can be maybe unchecked powers, there can be more time warps, there can be a Cathian Reigns. There are answers. Are they good ones? That's another question, but
I mean, you make a very good point. We saw a thermal beam earlier take down those baited hooks and seals from the Darius player in about, I think it was round 3, I want to say. So Kai'Sas are sighting in thermal beams. Does Terra sighting thermal beams is a big question. I don't get to see it too often, but it would do wonders. Not only would you get rid of Dazzling Aurora in this situation, but you're also getting rid of these pesky iron ballistas. That'll be a huge swing of things, but it's getting almost a little bit too late unless it's something along the lines of Volley going to be playing it out this next turn, and then when you throw it back over to Terra's turn, you have the thermal beam. Oh, speak of the devil, NA.
Oh my gosh. That's a... Are there 2 in the hand? That's all I can think of.
Right. Perhaps a little premature.
I mean, I don't hate it. The crossbows are getting just crazy amounts of value, and everything would be cleared instead of at least just one thing. If you don't do anything, you can maybe make the guess that your opponent doesn't have the Aurora, seeing as they did play the Volley on 10 rather than the Aurora. But, I mean, you don't know that. There's a chance they could be holding it.
Yeah.
I don't hate it in this board state.
And it looks like you don't even need it. Who needs Dazzling Aurora when you get the best target you get hit off the Dazzling Aurora directly onto the board? So 8 might way more than enough. Even if you had a little bit of combat tricks to buff up that Raven Bloom, should be able to get the job done. So Volibear going up to, I believe, 2 total points. Had 1 for the Conqueror on the volley, going 2 for this Dead Bloom Predator Conqueror, and things are not looking too hot for Terra. Had a great game 2, had a fantastic game 1, but this game 3 just hasn't really been too productive, if I do say. We see one of the best targets getting ripped out of the hand, the unchecked power. How do you deal with these huge units? It would be with the unchecked power, but no longer available to him. That is quite disastrous, if I do say so.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate because the unchecked power actually would have been a pretty good play here, as the volley is running low on cards. We know there's no Aurora. Yeah, that's just really unfortunate that the sabotage was in play. Would not be surprised to see volley playing multiple of it. I mean, it's a very powerful card for protecting your Aurora post side. But at least the Watcher's coming down, so something is happening for the Kaisa. You can clear the volley units. You can clear... I mean, it's probably the volley, right? But, this feels bad.
Yeah, unbelievable amount of counter pressure, if you will, coming out from this Volibear player. It looks like Terra can't just get anything rolling this game 3. Everything is counteracted, and to make matters worse, here is the infamous Dazzling Aurora hitting the board. You already have full control of the sigil, full control of the candlelit. Now you're gonna have a full amount of big might units coming down each and every turn. I don't want to call it too soon, but it almost feels all but over, unless, as you said, Ane, is there a second Thermo Beam in hand? Maybe a little window, but it still doesn't feel too ideal because that almost takes your entire turn away.
Yeah, you need like a Thermal Beam plus an unchecked power, which I think is kind of not realistic at this point. It's looking pretty poor, but I don't want to count players out until the points have been scored. Not exactly how you wanted this game to go out, as the Kaisa, again, missing that 2-drop early, and then the volley having all the answers for everything you had.
Yeah, everything. Even though it cost them, it cost them quite a bit. He's sitting at 1 card, 1 lonely resource in hand, but it was well worth the troubles. It looks like he has full control, as we said, passing it back, going up to 5 total conquer points, or 5 total points period. Sends it in, going up to 6. So now Volibear player kind of being the one pushing the pace, of course. Looks at the top 2, decides if he wants to recycle, but he has 2 cards in hand. I'm wondering what they can be. I mean, we've seen so many spells. I wouldn't blame him to just sit there and pass and let the Dazzling Aurora trigger and sit back on a couple of spells. 2 get excited have been expended. We saw 2 of them hit the discard already. I think this 2 disintegrates as well, so running a little bit low on spells, but something tells me he's still going to be comfortable going forward in this match.
There is part of the unfortunate volley RNG that does really hurt the deck, but hey, when you're already in this position, it does not matter that you hit a Buccaneer off of your Aurora. I think this is a really tough ask for Terrasidon, and you already have ripped the main answer that I would be thinking of here, which is the unchecked power, right? And most Kaisa lists are only playing 1 or 2, so it's pretty unlikely there's another one, and seeing as we've just dropped the Watcher, there very clearly is not another one. Yeah, this is not even going to be enough.
Yeah, how much might is on each battlefield? I'm seeing 12 on 1, 12 on the sigil, and then 8 total might on the candlelit. So you would have to send both your units into just one battlefield to try to contest. So 12 onto the candlelit will be enough, But look how much runes Volibear has available to him, so that's a little bit scary. There's most likely something like another combat trick trying to get into the range of trading evenly, preventing you from conquering, but Terra trying to perhaps do something like a cleave play before any kind of spell shenanigans comes down. Or, okay, the Hex Ray bringing it down, bringing the Buccaneer down, just leaving 6 total might on Candlelit.
Yeah, this does make it so that the Darius can, or Watcher, depending on who you want to use, can solo clear the Volibear, assuming no combat tricks in hand. But that still isn't enough to deal with the Sigil. What is the plan here?
Yeah, I think running a little bit low on the game plan. There's only 1 rune available for the remaining of Terra's turn, so sends the Watcher, looking to just trade evenly with the orange Volibear. But this doesn't feel too good. I mean, there's no ideal place. There's no plays that feel best for Terra. He's just trying to optimize and play towards any kind of little out he has. But that is out. The window of outs in this situation are very slim to none.
Yeah, and you do get the draw here off the Volibear imposing for moving to a battlefield, which makes this even scarier because now we can just draw into removal, and we know that the deck plays a lot of it. So it looks like the Watcher is now going to die, at the very least. Still a lot of runes up, drawing a card off the Void Seeker as well. But nope, it looks like the combat does resolve, and Conquer Point is taken, moving Kaisa up to 4. 4 more is a tall ask.
Yeah, 4 more points from this current situation, not very likely, especially considering the fact that since you are staring down a Dazzling Aurora on your opponent's side, and you have a healthy board state on that Sigil. So passing back, you're going up to 7. Is there a world where you're just gonna conquer this Darius? That's DA number 2 coming down. If there's a Deadbloom Predator, this might all be over, and you're looking through quite the amount of cards with 2 Dazzling Aurora procs at the end of your turn. You still get the Conquer Point with a Deadbloom, right? Even though it's at the end, I'm pretty sure.
Yep, that you do. So the game is, yep, there you go.
Didn't even have to dig too far.
Yeah, right on the top. So yeah, congratulations to Volley. That was I'm not gonna say unexpected because I'm always here hyping up the low tiers, but Volley is a awesome deck that maybe we have the build. Maybe this is it.